TNA Wrestling crosses that line again as we are just 24 hours away from Rebellion, which you can watch, oh, of course, over here in the UK on TNA Plus. Get it downloaded, get it subscribed, and get your subscription ready for Rebellion. But before we get to Rebellion, we have had an eventful impact this week. My goodness. We start with the contract signing with Eddie Edwards and Mike Santana for their match at Rebellion for the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, side note on this, Mike Santana's contract is apparently due up in the summer. Will that have anything, will that have anything, any to do with the result of Rebellion tomorrow night? We'll have to wait and see. But these two got into it as well on their contract signing. And Eddie Edwards, he kind of made a good point. He kept saying, "You left, I stayed." When TNA was being laughed at, you left, I stayed, and I became. And he carried the company on his back, and he become the foundation of TNA. And he did reference Santana's, being elsewhere in the inner circle, and you know and his reign as a GHC champion, of course, as well. But Eddie Edwards is going to vow to become a three-time Impact Wrestling champion. Cup of Joe, of course. No, this is a caramel latte for those that are interested. Not that any of you are, of course. Santana, when he got really serious, he took his glasses off and he wanted to look Eddie Edwards, in the eye. And he said that you called yourself the foundation. Well, when I come back, I took a sledgehammer to that foundation and I knocked it down. And now I am the TNA Heavyweight Champion. They got in each other's faces as well on this. And as they do that, Cedric Alexander gets into Santana. And that is, well, only briefly, because the arrival of X Division champion Leon Slater comes in and they take out them both with a double clothesline. Slater does that crazy dive to the outside, taking out both members of the system. But it is all going on. And that was just the opening segment, folks. Some really good, excuse me, some really good, sort of hard hitting talking. I'd say to open up Impact there. And then the brawl at the end, you kind of knew it was going to escalate into that way. But nevertheless, it makes you want to watch Rebellion tomorrow night on TNA Plus. In from there, it was story time with AJ Francis, and he takes us back to 2018 when he enrolled in the Team 3D Academy. He recounts receiving a call from an opportunity with the Cleveland Browns. He told his agent he would rather learn how to wrestle and make no money than be anywhere else. And he goes fast forward to the present. And France is in the ring with Cleveland's own Nick Nemeth, which he's facing, of course, at Rebellion tomorrow. And he attacked Nemeth because Nemeth took opportunities from him. And France said he's going to take the most important or the most precious thing from Nemeth, his health. And he calls himself the best big man in wrestling. This is going to blow, I think, right? Because I've been a big fan of AJ Francis ever since he's joined TNA. I think that match is going to massively exceed people's expectation. And yes, you can say, well, Nick Nemeth's in there and we know how good he is, and you're absolutely right. But them two together is gonna far exceed anybody's expectations tomorrow night. Excuse me, I'm still a little bit from a chest infection, but it should be fine. I've done a lot of interviews this week as well. We'll talk about that in a minute. I've got another one today, fun enough, which we'll discuss. Anyway, right, we get onto the action, knockouts action. And this is kind of bittersweet for me, this one. Danny Luna's last match in TNA wrestling against Jada Stone. We all know that the visa issues at the time, earlier on this year may have prevented Dan Luna from winning the Knockouts Championship. Then she built herself back up to get this other Knockouts Championship opportunity, and unfortunately, didn't happen. She ended up taking the pin, and then from there she requested her release from Impact Wrestling from TNA, which was granted. And this match was obviously filmed prior to Z release, but yeah, she didn't get the job done. Jada Stone. It was a good match actually. I really enjoyed this, and she just oozes money. I really honestly, and this isn't because she's a Brit, I really honestly think this is going to be one that gets away from TNA. I really, really do. I'm adamant at that. I think it's going to bite them big time, unfortunately. But the twisted moves from Jada Stone does get the victory. She doesn't get too much time to celebrate though. Tasha Steeles attacks as well. Um, she hit a big. There's a lot of good power drivers in this week's episode of Impact. I tell you that she hit a big one on Jada Stone, and maybe we're moving towards that being a feud going forward. But just want to say again with Danny, she is unbelievably talented, and it's a real shame. But I wish her nothing but the best. I look forward to seeing her on the independents over here in the UK. I'm sure she'll make a few appearances, and I'll be able to see her in action. And yeah, she's brilliant. She really, really is brilliant. So good luck, Danny, and thank you for your obviously contributions to TNA wrestling. Cemetery now. No, not the Undertaker. We're walking with Elijah through a cemetery, and as he's walking through, a little kid approaches the Drifter himself and says, if he would pray for him and his father. And Elijah says, lead the way. The kid stops midway as Elijah gets attacked by Kazarian. He ambushes Elijah. He starts to beat him up. He then gives the kid $20, and the kid says to Kaz, "You promised me 100." And then he tells the kid to go away, and then cuts a promo on Elijah ahead of their big battle tomorrow night at Rebellion. Like I said, you can see that on TNA Plus. Get it downloaded, get it subscribed, and get the chat package 9.99 a month. Gives you the lot, the impacts, the special ones. We'll get into TNA announcing their year coming up, the rest of the year, Slammiversary, Bound for Glory, all of that good stuff is coming this year, and you can watch it for 9.99 a month on TNA Plus. Um, Taryn Terrell comes out. I haven't seen her in years. It was nice to see her the other week, and she comes to the ring. She said, "Look, her career didn't end the way that she wanted it to, and according to her wishes." But she's happy to watch the company grow, which, it certainly has. And obviously, she's bringing up the fact that she's teaming with Mickey James and co. At Rebellion tomorrow. And that brings out the Elegance brand, of course. They engage with her in a war of words. The personal concierge has asked Terrell why she's all alone, questioning where Mickey James and ODB actually are. And then they go to a video which shows Mickey James and ODB laid out. And of course, it was a trap by the Elegance brand, and they put pay to Taryn Terrell. And I do like the modified Sister Abigail that they use in there as well, and it's a real shame. But the Elegance brand did say that they're gonna bury the past at Rebellion. Will remain to be seen, but still, very, very, good trap set by the Elegance brand this week. Now, Santino, we're going backstage here, and Ariana Grace and Stax, and it didn't take long before things to escalate quickly. And Stax tells Santino that Ariana is no longer under his control. So, how does Santino respond to any way a father would respond when you say that about a daughter? He punches him in the face. And they ran, and they all the way into the Lockouts locker room. He hesitates to go in, but Indy Hartwell's there. She shows up, and they go in and they kick ass, and they come out, and Indy's wearing Stax' glasses, and which is quite funny, and they complement each other before Indy pulls out the Cobra, which is back in Santino's hands finally. But that is not where we leave that. We'll come back on in a minute. Come back to that in a minute. BDE was next against Frankie Kazarian, fresh from his funeral parlor activities. Ryan Nemeth on commentary, I must admit, grated, and I'm sure that's what he was meant to do. But he did grate on me just a little bit in this. He did get, you know, it's just, yeah, I didn't enjoy it. I'm not quite sure. I enjoyed the match, though. I really enjoyed the match. However, I think Frankie Kazarian winning was a bit obvious, which he did. But like I keep saying, um, BDE needs to pick up victories, and this wasn't one. It was a good match, though. Really good match. He had bursts of a comeback during it before he reversed BDE's, before Kazarian reversed BDE's cutter with a backstabber, and then applying the chicken win, funnily enough. I can talk a bit about that in a bit, a chicken wing, and someone within wrestling that's synonymous with it. Um, However, he, as I say, he done that and then he pinned BDE. BDE's on a losing run. It kind of needs to change. Again, it's all about momentum and when you want to push a talent. If they're losing, by the time they get to this championship opportunity that they may or may not get, the momentum's gone and the believability is gone, in my opinion, anyway. But it doesn't end here because Brian Nemeth gets a slap around the face, which is always nice. BDE sets up Nemeth, though, assists Kazarian, sets him up for an attack, but the lights go out. And the strum of Elias's guitar is played, or Elijah's guitar is played. And then he's there. He tries to choke out Kazarian with his scarf, but Ryan blocks the attempt and instead eats a forearm. And Elijah chases off Kazarian into the back. Looks like that one's personal this week. They're going to go at Rebellion as well. So looking forward to that. Um, Elena Black is in action next against Myla Grace. Now, Myla Grace's partner, Harley Hudson. We have just interviewed on the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. You can see that in the TNA exclusive section in the playlist below. Go and check that out. That was this week. We interviewed Harley. It was great. Um, Myla looks solid in this, I will say. Myla Grace looked real solid in her first real singles match in TNA. I mean, she took on Harley Hudson at Explosion before they started teaming together, but this was her debut as a single. She looked really good. The future of that Knockouts division, Danny Luna leaving aside, very, very promising with the talent they've got there. Tasha Steeles, Myla Moore, Myla Grace as well, Jada Stone, Elena Black being the second one. And it was Elena Black with the blackout that gets the victory in this. But there's a lot here, a lot of great people in that Knockouts division. I'm looking forward to seeing this Knockouts division grow in 2026. It looks like it's been refreshed a little bit. Like I said, Danny Luna leaving aside, which is a big loss, but refreshed and looking very hungry, which is what I very much look forward to. And Elena Black picking up the victory. Once again, she put herself in knockouts contention, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Now, earlier on, we said about Santino Marella and Indy Hartwell going into the knockouts locker room to, get a little bit of Stax and Ariana Grace. Now, someone that took exception to that was a director of Authority or The Suit, Daria Ray. And she received a phone call from TNA headquarters to say that Santino Marella has been suspended indefinitely, which he didn't take too kindly to. That opportunity presented itself to Indy Hartwell to show up, plead Morella's case, and in doing so, she kind of touched a little bit. She kind of touched Daria Ray, sort of brushed her, and Daria Ray took that as an attack and suspended Indy Hartwell indefinitely as well. Not quite sure what's going on there, but nevertheless, Both Santino and Indy are now suspended indefinitely from TNA wrestling. Right. Ricky Sosa, bang bang, is here and he's excited about his future. He's excited to be about from TNA. However, it didn't last long before he was interrupted by EY himself, Eric Young, who's a cleanse, of course. And he calls Ricky a pretender. EY calls himself the gatekeeper of TNA wrestling. And Sosa said, look, he's not here and he never disrespected Young. Young put his hands on him. So Sosa tells him to back off, and they get into it. And after a few bits and pieces on this, EY, he hit a power driver on Sosa, and Sosa sold it like his rent was due. It was a great fight, really enjoyed, but the selling of the power driver really made that from Sosa really made it. It really showed. I mean, he looked like he was like legitimately knocked out from Eric Young's power drive. It was really, really good. I enjoyed that segment. Really enjoyed. I'm really happy that Sosa is signed from TNA, by the way, as well. That is an acquisition. Well, we throw the name Blue Chipper around a little bit, maybe too much on this show, but he really, really is a blue chip candidate, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the future holds for him. However, we now get to some skits that have happened recently. Now, you will know that Rosemary and Ali have been involved in several skits this week. Now, if you remember last week, we picked up with Tessa Blanchard after her victory. She goes to the realm of the undead. She's questioning Father James Mitchell about her whereabouts. She then goes away. This next video, it includes Sadie, Ali, Myla, Victoria Crawford, and Rosemary. Um, they kind of like drop in and out of the horror theme through. They're going through these little walkways and alleyways, and things are popping out of Victoria Crawford. Um, there's lots of screaming going on, and Rosemary's like standing there with this maniacal smile on her. She looks like she should be a killer in a film. About and they're all around anyway. They're all around playing this game. Ali went off with Mila Moore during this. Ali was an assistant to Rosemary. However, she finds Dr. James Mitchell singing, Cinny Minnie on the mic, having a sing, how he's doing it his way. And of course, Rosemary said about there was a favor. They walk into a room. There is Jim Mitchell's old wrestler who he managed for many, many years. That was Abyss, who quoted, "Forgive me, Father, I have sinned." And that's how that thing, it was like a 6 minute long video that you can see on YouTube now. I believe it's on sorry, X. And what's happening next week with this? This is going crazy. I want to know where we're going with this. At Abyss, we saw Crazy Steve a couple of weeks ago. Rosemary, the Decay were all there. What's going on? How is it impacting all these knockouts? Really interested to see how this. It's intriguing, puzzling, creepy, all at the same time. Um, Mustafa Ali comes out next. We're back to reality somewhat with Mustafa Ali, and he comes out, and obviously he's got Trey Miguel for the international championship. It's very funny during this. Mustafa Ali said, "Your rascals ain't here anymore," and and he basically Ali isn't, and well, Trey Miguel rebutted with Ali's a scumbag and a coward, and but he did also mention that rascals will always be his brothers, which is nice. And TNA welcomed Trey Miguel back because he's family and their family and all of that sort of stuff. And they all started to gang up on Trey Miguel, but out comes Moose, who's obviously got Special Agent Zero tomorrow night at Rebellion. They clear the ring and all the four regroup on the outside. But Really good. I'm really looking forward to both those matches. Again, I think Moose and Special Agent Zero is going to exceed expectations, a lot like AJ Francis and Nick Nemeth. And we know Trey Miguel and Ali is going to be sensational. That's for sure. But it's main event time on Impact, and what better way for Impact to main event than the Hardys defending against the Righteous in a tables match, but not just any tables match. This match, both both members of the tag team have to get put through the table to win the match, which is good. I like those ones. Um, so he ended up with Dutch going through the table. Then Matt Hardy going through the table quite quickly, them two. It was carnage, absolute carnage. I really enjoyed this. Obviously you love the Hardys, so you always love the Hardys, but it was absolute chaos in there. And in the end, it was of course Jeff Hardy with the Swanton bomb through the table through Vincent that got the job done. But it is cut short because Dutch frozen through a table that was stacked up on the corner in the ring of a pounce, and the Hardys are laid out as Impact comes to an end. But what an impact as we head to Rebellion in 24 hours time. I'm so looking forward to it. Like I said, you can see all the action on TNA Plus. Get it downloaded, get it subscribed, and get that championship package for $9.99. Like I said before, big thanks to TNA this week for the Harley Hudson interview. You can see that below. Also coming up on the channel, someone very familiar to TNA Wrestling, Diona Perazzo, comes up on this channel very, very soon. But for TNA and from me today, cross the line and stay safe, and we'll be back with the Rebellion review.